ようこそどうぞはじめまして
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the GLORIO Chat, the best anime podcast on the internet. We have reached the end of a very strange season. The summer 2020 anime season is over, and it's time for us to do our final thoughts. You know, we've kind of talked about at length how it's been very weird with all the delays and postponements and shows popping back up when out of nowhere in the middle of the season. You know, whatever Netflix is doing. If I can get a thanks Netflix on that one, but yeah. Hopefully this will all just be a footnote in history, and we will be able to someday tell our grandkids how anime was made in the COVID era.
Uh-huh.
But you know, with next season looking like another full plate of shows again, but that does leave us with a couple things still left to talk about on this episode, for better or worse. If you've been listening to the podcast all this season, you'll probably know what shows are going to be the better and what shows are going to be the worse. But before we get into it, let's just introduce everybody. I'm Jel. I am joined by Iro.
Still here. Not dead yet.
Still with us. I'm joined by G.
What's good, y'all?
And this week, we have Artemis back with us.
Hey, good to be here.
Yeah, so, like I said, there's still quite a few shows for us to talk about. I think we will have some interesting things to say on some of these. And we'll probably start with a couple of the Netflix curveballs that we were talking about. We've been in and out of talking about Great Pretender all season because it was kind of part of last season, it was kind of part of this season, and I mean, technically it could be part of next season considering they just dropped the final 8 episodes like 3 days ago or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
But,
it's gonna be for better or worse. Great Pretender will be a fall 2020 anime for me, at least. So.
Yes, for a lot of us. I know I haven't had a chance to watch any of it, but Artemis, did you watch all of it or just some of
I
it?
binge watched it.
Oh.
Gotta respect that editorial acumen.
Okay.
Watching
Sure,
the anime
sure,
so you can
that's why I did it for you.
deliver the
guys.
takes. Thank you for your service.
Yeah. So I guess we'll keep to a minimum any real information on it, but
I'll keep anything I say spoiler free.
as an overall impression, and this is the end of the series, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. And what was your overall impressions of I guess, feelings about the end of it?
I was worried going into the last arc because I didn't necessarily think the first couple of episodes they weren't bad, but I wouldn't say brilliant either. But I think it got stronger again towards the end, and I was reasonably happy when it was finished.
Okay.
Well, that's good to hear, I guess.
Yeah.
You weren't with us on the last arc. What did you think? Because you said you had concerns going in, as we all currently do.
Yeah.
Waiting to...
Well, I think because part of the reason, honestly, the very first story arc was just so good
Yeah.
that anything that came after had some really big shoes to fill.
Right.
And I didn't think that any of the following arcs quite managed to fill them.
I think that's a reasonable statement.
Yeah.
Like it really does feel like they, you know, to use the metaphors, they really put it all out in the field in the first arc. You know, that was definitely
which
the
I
one
respect. Like I also like it when anime does not hold its punches like that. Like that's, bold move.
But it definitely does leave it a little like less impressive when it doesn't do the same in the following.
When it's just not, when it's like less than perfect. It's like, oh, suddenly it's gone downhill, which is a little unfair, but
I mean,
Right.
I think the thing we've all been saying this whole time is like Great Pretender's still a pretty good show, no matter what. Like whatever quibbles we may have with it, it's it's all fairly minor in the face of a show that I think we all generally like to varying degrees, I think.
yeah.
Right. What is the big location for the ending? Is it one location again, or is it kind of all more over the place?
It bounces between Japan and China. because there's like a few rivals, and it sort of switches POV. So
Interesting.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so it's not just we're hanging out in one city like the other.
Yeah, we're hanging out in actually quite a few different locations. So
All right. Well, that'll give us something to look forward to as we deal with the disappointment of next season.
A crutch to bring us through the fall season.
I think in general you can rest assured that you'll leave on a
Positive note.
on a pretty positive note. I mean, I don't know. You guys might have the complete opposite reaction to me for all I know, but
Possible.
I was happy.
Well, I feel like we've all been kind of on the same page for the most part with the show up to now, so we'll have to see how that goes. But not too much more we can say at this point without getting into details.
Yeah, I
so
mean,
we'll-
the remaining three of us haven't even watched one episode.
Yeah,
of
we'll-
the new arc.
we'll save
say
that
no
for future podcast episodes.
I shall say no more. Yes.
And well, let's get the other Netflix thing from this past season out of the way.
That Netflix thing.
So, you, Iro and G, you finished Japan Sinks 2020. To
We
recap,
sure did.
Artemis finished it a long time ago and
did.
did not think highly of it, to say the least. But
The very
now that
least.
you guys have wrapped on it, how are you feeling at the end here?
It's kind of a fucking mess.
Yeah, that's definitely the way to put it. I will be 100% honest, Artemis. I did not have a good time with Japan Sinks, but there was nothing about it that, like, I would say offended me so deeply that I got actively angry at it.
That's because
it was...
you spread it out over several weeks, whereas I spread it out
I
over
mean-
2 days.
Well, maybe that was the key to living with Japan Sinks 2020 is to kind of
Watching
spread
it
it
very
out.
gradually so your IQ doesn't go down steeply all at
Yeah,
once.
yeah, because I mean, it takes a very specific type of sensibility to actively make me angry with anime. Like, great examples of that would be, say, Gundam Seed or All Noah Zero. But so maybe it's just bad mecha anime that like makes me angry.
wasn't-
Maybe it's just I don't have stakes in Japan Sinks because there isn't a robot in it. But like,
To be clear, I wasn't angry because Japan Sinks was bad. I was angry because the first episode of Japan Sinks was good.
yeah,
Yeah,
it was.
that's fair.
That's fair.
And then the rest was shit. Like,
I
it
guess,
just
yeah, like-
progressively got more
Yeah.
and more shit the further you went along.
You know what? I guess that does make sense if you binge watched Japan Sinks. That means that the first episode is more recent in your memory, whereas
Right.
Iro and I, because we watched it over the course of like 2 months, by the time we got to the end, the good feelings of the first episode were so distant that
Long since faded from
yeah,
Right.
all living memory. Yes.
it never felt like a betrayal anymore.
I'm definitely curious, because especially the last episode,
Oh, dude,
it
it's
might as well have been like screaming from the heavens, "Welcome to the 2020 Olympics!
oh yeah,
Look how
dude.
great Japan is!"
Dude, the more I thought about the context of in which this anime came out, I was like, you know, like, here's the thing. I can't say I know Yuasa as a person, but based on his past work, especially Devilman Crybaby, he doesn't give me the vibe that he's one of those, like, nationalist kind of dudes. You know what I'm saying? Like there are definitely anime works where you kind of watch it and you're like,
Don't know about this guy.
what does this guy have to say about, you know, comfort women or something?
Right.
You know, like I bet this
what was
guy-
that? What was that show? Gate or something?
Gate, right? Like, this guy might have some bad takes on remilitarization.
If nothing else,
Could you-
Japan Sinks has the like ultranationalist people show up and instantly explode.
Right, so I don't think Yuasa is that kind of dude, but there's definitely aspects of that last episode that were a little bit like, see, guys, Japan is great.
To be
like,
fair, like I was in Japan when it was confirmed that Japan would host, and it was like it wasn't a nationalist thing. It was just a Olympics fever thing.
oh, sure, maybe that's all
to
there
the
is
point
to it.
where when the new elementary school textbooks came out that I was teaching, the whole thing was based on the Olympics.
Jesus.
Oh man, that's
Yeah.
well. I'm glad there's one nation left on the planet that can still get excited about the Olympics, but
So
Yeah,
was that the ending? Like they were still going to do the Olympics anyway, or something?
Well,
sorry.
no,
So
not
the end is after they go
it was
to.
it was like a how many years time skip was
It's
it? Like
It's 15 years, 10 years,
Yeah.
something like
Anyway,
that.
but we last left off with them floating in the ocean, basically.
Yeah.
And so they somehow meet back up with the rest of the crew with a boat, and they go to the scientist's secret cave where he has the hard drive.
oh, I'm sorry, a boat? Are you missing the part where
Where it was an
guy
APC?
comes with a legit fucking
Oh god,
tank?
you're right.
Yeah, it was an
Amphibious tank.
amphibious tank.
That, I guess
yes.
just those YouTube connections of his are really
Which-
paying off, huh?
Yeah.
Again, it's like, I mean, I won't lie. The more and more absurd this show became, the more I was like, you know what? Kite might actually be the best character in
No,
this.
no, like where did he get the tank from?
Right?
Did he give like a reason for having? Did he just
No,
drop by
which
the
is
nearest
great.
army base
Like,
and be like, "Hey, I'm
jacked
a
it,
famous
yeah.
YouTuber. You might know me."
Like, the more and more, like, at first I was like, oh my god, this fucking YouTuber, like, I can't stand this guy. But then the worse and worse the show got.
You're like filming something at a park, and then PewDiePie comes with the B-2 bomber or something.
Right,
Like,
and it's like, and see, that's the thing. At first, in a normal Yuasa show, I would have hated that. But because every other character became so exasperating to deal with, the YouTuber with the magical phone became my favorite character because he just seemed to, like, not give nearly as much of a fuck as everybody else.
right. Anyway, but they have to retrieve the scientists' research, the research that will save Japan. If we can just retrieve this research, Japan will return.
Sure.
Which doesn't make
fucking
any
MacGuffin.
Right, it doesn't make any
Yeah,
sense, but
I don't
guess...
think you can undo a continent-altering.
What it
earthquake,
actually
but-
just is like his magic anime battle data prediction timeline of when Japan will rise again, which happens, and the ending is Japan rises again, and we pulled all the data from the cloud to find everyone's pictures about how great Japan is, and look, China and Korea are now respecting our territorial rights, and now we have dual citizenship, and now we have gay marriage, and isn't Japan great now that everything's back to normal, folks?
And now, esports is part of the Olympics. They play
yeah.
League of Legends at
I'd
the
forgotten
Olympics
about
now.
that. I'd completely forgotten about that.
Christ.
But okay, so like, if we actually want to, like, instead of just like regurgitating the bad plot, if we actually want to
Right.
get into like
yeah.
my problems with Japan sinks, I mean, as you said, Hiro, it is a mess, but more than just being a mess, it's like. It's an illogical mess. Like, again, I am very much not one of those, like, cinema sins, like, kind of guys who's like, oh, plot holes, these plot holes
that
don't make
shit.
any sense, right? But it's like, the thing that Japan Sinks did suffer from, like, a legitimate lack of like, logical cohesion. Like,
Half of the show is not a disaster show.
right, and the actions of the characters didn't make any sense. Like, not even in the sense of, like, oh, don't question it too hard, it's fiction. But in the sense of, like, if you were, like, survivors in an apocalypse, you wouldn't, like, this went beyond just, like, the horror movie, don't open that door, into, like, now you're just being stupid on purpose. Like, the thing that, like, really continued to bother me the whole time is the girl.
right?
Is the girl with the wounded leg. Like, why did you tell literally nobody about the wound? Like, this isn't a zombie bite situation. Like, this isn't a, like, I got bit by the zombies, I can't tell everybody. Like, this is...
Because then they'll shoot me in the head.
Right, this is literally, I have a wounded, infected leg, and oh no, I can't tell anyone, because why? Like, she never gives an actual explanation for why she doesn't tell anybody about the wound. Like, even when they're at the cult,
right,
that is
and,
shown
like-
to have medical facilities, like...
Right. That's
Right.
kind of the whole cult arc of just
Right,
everything.
yeah, like, but even later, it's like, she didn't tell anybody, right? Like, she never, like, got medical attention for it. Hell, and all the times they were, like, raiding for supplies, she never found fucking a first aid kit, a Band-Aid, and some antiseptic. Like, it all
Right.
felt like it was just, this is just this, like, convoluted, like, like plot point that will introduce for drama because oh no, at the end of the show she has to get her leg amputated and she's a runner. It's the representation of her loss of self, but like because that plot point was predicated on her being like a total fucking idiot for 12 episodes.
Yep.
It's just like it just feels pointless. It's like why does this?
It was for, like, every action like that was for furtherance of the plot in another way, but it didn't make sense. So I feel like the reason, apart from so that we can show her, you know, amputated leg at the end, is so the other guy, you know, the quiet otaku guy, could run instead and
Oh yeah,
retrieve
he
the microchip or whatever. Like,
right,
I mean,
get
yeah,
fucking smoked by that wave.
right, like it's so every other character can die off one by one until all we're left with at the end is their noble sacrifice.
Right.
Just
Yeah, it's
yeah.
it's just so messy, and especially in a like. Again, I know I keep beating this drum, but you also made another anime this year, like. And Eizouken was really good and like really cohesive and well thought out, and the dialogue was great, and like it's just so weird. Like if you told me like I don't know, man, if you told me that like, you know, Yuasa got into like a horrible accident and like both of his hands were broken, I'd be like, all right, I guess that makes sense, like why Japan Sinks maybe turned out the way it did, but like
Was his brain also broken in the process of the horrible accident, though?
I just don't know. It's like it's just so weird, like because you know here's the thing.
Yeah, because like we know I mean, from what we know of the source material, they've had a huge amount of creative freedom with this, so it's not just like the source material's bad, right?
Right.
Like
Yeah, I wonder if just,
these
like,
were choices.
The writer on this one sucks.
Yeah, these were choices they made. It wasn't like they
Yeah.
were just adapting the source material.
I mean, that's the thing. All of Yuasa's adaptations are pretty loose, honestly. I mean, you know, like Devilman Crybaby, Ping Pong. I mean, probably I assume even Eizouken to a certain extent is also probably not a one-to-one adaptation. Is, you know, my suspicion, but
yeah. Well, it's okay. Before we wrap up, what was the deal with the rap battle? I need to know.
okay.
right.
So
Right, I completely forgot.
Thank you for bringing that up. We almost forgot, even though we literally talked about this right before the podcast. Like, oh, dude, that rap battle fucking sucked. Holy shit! It was so fucking just like lame. And as somebody who as somebody who loved the freestyle rapping in Devilman Crybaby, like I generally love it. Like, in fact, I literally listened to it right before this podcast to remind me. But like, it very much felt like one of those things of Yuasa being like, oh, well, my other anime had this anime should have it too, or something. Except it wasn't executed nearly as well, like, on any level. Like,
what context? Like, I don't understand even what context a rap battle would come
while
up
they're
in.
headed to the cave to find the hard drive that will save Japan, they stop to rest at some island, and everyone's depressed because a bunch of people died and they're tired, and the sky is covered in volcanic ash. So the YouTuber pulls out the hip-hop beats on his phone and says, "We're doing a rap battle to cheer everybody up."
Oh my god.
right, and it's like, and the thing about the rap battle is, like, in many ways, the context of it does make a certain degree of sense within the context of, like, what Yuasa likes to do. And, like, the rap battle is basically, like, a chance for the characters to, like,
Right.
vocalize their feelings about, like, national identity and, like, Japan as a nation, as domestic citizens of it. Like, you know, because, like, the youngest sibling, the boy, like, he, you know, I mean, both of the kids, the main kids are half race, right? They're half Filipino, half Japanese. And they both kind of, like, internalize that identity in different ways. You know, the younger sibling does not actually care much for Japan. He doesn't, in fact, he's rather, like, strongly critical of Japan in a lot of ways. And he's not wrong in it, you know, considering the way that they are treated by some of the Japanese nationalists in that show. You know, and then you have, like, another character who is, like, actually, a lot of things that you say are bad about Japan are good things, right? Like, you know, that it's a good thing that Japan has a collective culture where we have, like, our cultural norm is to, you know, be, I don't know, what is the nice way to say, like,
deferential to others.
Right, deferential to others. That is a good thing to have a homogenous culture. And so, you know, the rap battle basically serves as a chance for people to kind of, you know, vocalize their thoughts in this, like, explicit medium that, if they were just saying these things out loud in a normal conversation, would feel a little weird and unnecessary, but...
Oh, but in a rap battle would be totally normal.
Well, it's more that, like, you know, like, it's more
right.
that,
It takes the confrontation out of it.
It takes the
right?
confrontation out of it, because then it becomes performative, right? Like,
Right.
because now you're performing your feelings. It removes some of the personal nature of it, and the problem is that it doesn't really work, because if Japan Sinks was meant to be like a critique or even just a self-reflection on Japanese culture, it doesn't really do a great job of it because of the disjointed nature of it. Because, you know, it spends like 3 episodes at a cult that, like, at least based on my, like, relatively, you know, narrow understanding of Japan, did not feel particularly representative of Japanese culture. You know, like, there was a sumo wrestler there, and, like, they talked about the kintsugi, you know, the filling the cracks with gold, and it's like, okay, yeah, I saw those on Reddit too, my guy. Like, and so, like, you compare that to the freestyle rap segments in Devilman Crybaby, which were, like, amazing, and one of the reasons is because they actually got actual Japanese rappers for those segments. Like, one of the big problems with the version in Japan Sinks is that it's just the VAs, and, like, let me tell you, y'all, like, if you don't listen to a lot of hip-hop, I know it's very easy to be like, well, isn't rap just, like, speaking words to a beat? No, as Jel can back me up here, no, rap is not just speaking words to a beat. Like, there is, you know, there is a real...
It is its own skill, yes.
Yes, there is a real skill to it. There is a legitimate rhythm and pace to it, and you see that in Devilman Crybaby because they got actual freestylers in Japan to, like, do that shit, and it sounds good. There's a good flow. It sounds natural, and not only that, but, you know, we've said it before, but the freestyle, you know, rapping in Devilman Crybaby was kind of this, like, 21st century Greek chorus, right? Like, every episode they were basically there to, like, serve as a Greek chorus of saying, hey, this is how we feel about the plot right now in this episode. And
it's an artistic element as opposed to a really stupid plot point.
Right, right. Like you know, it existed in universe, but it wasn't, like, part of the plot. Yes, that's a good way of putting it. Whereas, yeah, I don't know if Yuasa or whoever was, like, writing this show was like, no, what if the rap actually, like, mattered to the plot and was badly done because these VAs clearly don't know how to fucking rap, so...
Yeah, I'm just like thinking about it. It sounds so, like, shoehorned in, like, in the context of it. I mean, if I were there and some YouTuber guy put on a beat, said we're gonna rap it out, I'd probably kick his ass at that stage.
Yeah,
right?
That's the thing, though. Like, it wasn't just the rap part of the series that was forced and shoehorned in. Literally, every plot point was forced and shoehorned in. You know?
That was one of many examples, I'm sure. So, all right.
Yeah, just
well, with Yuasa theoretically retired after this. Maybe he just needed a break. I don't know, but
who knows, man?
I mean, do we even has Science Saru announced any projects or anything, or do we know what they're doing next? Get this taste out of our mouth.
I'd have to look it up.
I don't know.
As far as
man,
I know, I don't think there's anything.
Yeah, Yuasa, we love you. If you need a vacation, please take it. We won't.
Maybe he'll take a couple years off and be back better than ever.
Yeah,
we can
exactly.
only hope.
Apparently, they did announce that they're working on another TV show with another director.
Huh.
In June. Well, that's it.
So not Yuasa.
So we know they're doing something, but yeah.
That's interesting. Well, I guess we'll find out whenever they release their next show. Who we can hold accountable for Japan Sinks.
All right. Let's keep this disappointment train rolling.
Yeah. Speaking of trains.
Let's talk about Appare Ranman. And before we get too into it, I want to get one very petty thing off my chest
Sure.
about the show.
You have the floor.
for some reason, one of the single most annoying things I found in the entire back half of the show was when Gil changes to bad guy mode, and the sound of his voice that they chose for him when he's like, I'm going to talk like this because I'm evil.
That's like classic anime villain talk.
But it was like, I don't know why that one particular thing and just the way it was like so hammed up was like, I think it was just emphasizing how wrong I felt the whole thing has gone at this stage. Like,
I don't know how we got the power of the ultimate eye either.
Yeah, for one thing, I really don't like the one-dimensional, just evil for evil's sake cartoon villain, unless it's like literally a children's show.
Also, it came out of nowhere.
And did they even explain? Did he have any motivation or anything other than just
that was I'm the Joker.
Right, he's
violence
a violent
rules
anarchist.
it all.
Right, he thought that all humans were violent anarchists, and he wanted everyone to basically act like that all the time.
Right.
I think the quote unquote key to his character, right, is when he tells those two guys to fight over the gun, and whoever kills the other gets to live. Right, is
right.
That is theoretically supposed to be the summation of his philosophy, right?
And it's just
deep down, we're all like this. We're all animals.
His philosophy: we live in a society.
Yeah, literally.
So for some reason, I don't know why the author just decided it was worth hijacking the entire show and just making that be the whole point of the entire second half of the series was stopping this guy.
So
where they literally throw the race out the window.
Right.
It's not even they're not showing it on screen or something. It's we literally just can't put that in the garbage can.
The race was never important to the show, which is a problem. We've talked about this at length of how the show billed itself as a show about racing, and then the racing is never important to the show.
We probably got how many minutes of race time?
Less than a full
race screen
episode.
time do you think we got?
Yeah, less than a whole episode.
Right.
And sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I think a lot of the stuff that did happen in the show, if it had billed itself as just goofy Western, anime Western, hijinks time, we're hunting criminals, the sheriff deputized us or something. If it had not pretended to be a race show, I think a lot of the stuff that happened, I would have been yeah, okay.
I mean, that's the thing, right? In a vacuum, there are individual elements of Appare Ranman that worked for me, right? I mean, even the bad guy being, a violent anarchist, bandito, works.
Right.
To
I'm
a certain
saying
extent.
if we started the show with, we're stuck in America and now we're chasing banditos.
Right. Well, but and that's the thing, right? It's the way. So the way I put it, I think, is that Appare Ranman was a show desperately in search for an identity, despite having an obvious one literally right in front of it. Mm-hmm. It could have just I mean, yeah, I mean, it could have just I mean, the race, the wacky Western hijinks, it could have just gone full double-decker and embraced its absurdity. But the show felt this weird need to maintain a relatively serious tone to compel its viewers, right? How come Kosame won't use his sword, or little Indian boy's backstory, and I think it's it almost felt like the show was afraid that if it was too lighthearted, we wouldn't care about the characters, and I think that's kind of a weird mistake because
we didn't care about the characters anyway.
Well, not only that, but I don't think you need a serious tone to make people care about characters, right? There are a lot of lighter, wackier shows that still manage to make us care about the characters, even if the stakes aren't world-shattering, because those works understood that, the more important thing is, do we actually like the characters in the world? And Appare Ranman was so committed to trying to make us care about these characters before we even had a chance to like them. It never...
Right.
It never gave us time to actually like the characters enough to care about the stakes that they were involved in. I mean,
right.
Combined with the fact that to begin with, and from beginning to end, the characters were all just so one-dimensional.
Right, like they were. Well, that's
Not
the thing.
even
Well,
not
actually,
even in a fun
well,
way.
but that's the problem, right? So here's where now my part. Thank you, Artemis, because now I get to get into my thesis about how I compare this show to Takeshi Koike's 2010 anime film Redline. Also about wacky.
Don't tell me
anime
that
races.
was 2010, please.
I think it was 2010.
I think it was, yeah.
It was
I feel like it was. I feel like it was older, but yeah, 2010.
2009.
Oh, 2009. Yeah,
Fuck
because I
me.
remember they celebrated their 10th anniversary like
Oh,
somewhere
Christ.
Oh, right.
recently. Okay, so Redline is a movie about absurd, wacky races in like sci-fi North Korea, right? It's got a dude with a giant pompadour who wants to win the race because if you win the race, you
loves
get
to
all
race.
you love to. He just loves to race, you know. And if you win races, you get all the ladies, and that's cool too. And Redline has its wacky bunch of competitors, right? Like there's a gorilla cop. There's a duo pair of vigilantes named Lynchman and Johnny Boy. You know, there are idols
Christ.
with a transforming robot car, and that movie in like 2 minutes manages to make me care more about these bit characters in this race than Appare Ranman could ever achieve in its entire 13 episode run. And like those characters in Redline, those characters are one dimensional. Like those
Right.
guys are paper cutouts. They are literally just a character designer was like, it's just like, who should be in this movie? Oh, I don't know, like evil Batman. Okay, how does this look? Wow, that looks really badass. How about we give him like an evil red-haired Jew as his Robin? And it's like, sure, why not? Okay, they're in the movie now. Do they have a plot line? Do they have backstory?
About the amount of thought put into the character design of Appare Ranman characters. Like,
So, yeah, I mean,
And-
if I can.
Sorry,
go ahead, G. I'll let you wrap up first before.
Okay, fine. It's just that one-dimensional is fine. Like, it can be fine if you embrace it. The problem was Appare Ranman constantly felt like he was teetering between, like, should these characters just be absurd caricatures, or should they actually be characters? And it never really picked.
It was
and
consistently halfway between, and because it didn't commit to either, it failed at both.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if I can put my film school reject hat on here, it's like you can do the one-dimensional if you're setting up the characters to let everybody kind of fill in the blanks on their own, right? With their personalities and everything. Whereas with Appare Ranman, we got a lot of detailed backstory on all of these characters that we didn't really need. That was just telling us all the things that, we probably could have figured out in half the time. But, we had to, get all the flashbacks and, get, everybody gets their own full episode of, them doing whatever it is they do. And they consistently just did that one thing for the rest of the show. I think where it really culminated for me, again, going back to the Gil turning evil episode, that entire episode is everybody standing around and getting their ass beat by Gil, and they all do the exact same thing, where he says the one thing that goads them to get them angry. They run at them, gets kicked in the face, then he goes on to the next character, and they do that for 22 minutes, and it's all like, exactly what's going to happen, like, because they're all just falling right into their,
right.
Whatever one note that they've been built for that character. They just do whatever it is, that one thing that they do, and then we have to reinforce that, and we have to go down the list for every single character every single time, and it's just extremely frustrating to watch that over and over and over again. And it's all in the presumably in the name of trying to make us care, but it's not
Has the
accomplishing
opposite
that
effects, yeah.
at all. Yes, in fact, it's the opposite, where I'm just like, can you guys just stop talking? Can we just get this can we just get this over with?
I mean, by the time the end credits rolled on the final episode, I breathed a sigh of relief that I no longer had to sit through this. Like,
After Appare had one more "what are these feelings" moments
Kosami!
to wrap up the
Scream to
episode.
the sky, yeah, because
series.
that'll make us care. Screaming to the sky for sure is a surefire way.
Yeah. So I think, had there are plenty of ways they could have saved the show, and I think that's why we again are frustrated, because there are good elements here that they could have done something.
Appare Ranman should have been the one. It
Right.
should have been the one. Like this is the fucking underhand toss of 2020. Like, it should have been so easy to knock this one out of the park. Like, holy shit.
And it's like they could have gone either of the directions that they were trying. Like, the obvious one obviously would have been the wacky fun race across Anime America. Sign me up. But even if they wanted to go in a more character-driven direction, had they properly developed their characters and made them likable, because like the characters aren't even likable, even if you get past like
Right.
the-
Like, I mean, that's the
Really
main
not.
issue. Is like,
yeah, even you get past the fact that they're simple, you don't like them. Like, I don't like, they're all kind of annoying or tolerable at best, right? So without that, had they been able to get us invested in that, okay, sure, if you want to then take us onto another more adventure based type of thing, then fine, but they didn't pull that off either.
again,
And-
I will say, I'm not even like joking when I say this, but like, TJ is the character that they should have looked at in Appare Ranman and said, we need to write every character to be like TJ.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
because that is the one character in that show that understands what kind of show Appare Ranman is, and that
Or
it is
should have
okay
been.
for him to be an absurd, a truly absurd caricature of a person, because like, that fits the setting. I mean, I won't lie, I fucking cackled during that final episode when him and Dylan are squaring off against Guilty Cigar, and he finally takes off the goggles, and they're weighted like it's fucking Piccolo taking off his turban. Like,
And he was like, now I can finally get serious.
right, like, there's like an audible tunk when they hit the ground, and it's like, wait, are those things like 20 pounds or something?
And then, like, Gil even say, like, aha, finally, I can now switch modes or something. Like,
Maybe, yeah, I don't know. It's just
I think he actually says,
Oh,
like,
it's just,
basically,
again,
I've
like-
been using only 20% of my power level.
it's just, I'm not saying every character should have been exactly like TJ, but every character should have been written with TJ of the 1003 in mind, because that's the
Right.
one glimpse of that show that's like, oh, they do know what kind of ridiculous, absurd show this is.
Such a
Yeah.
missed opportunity.
Yup.
I mean, so many missed opportunities, but that one especially.
Just yeah.
Yep. Well,
I
it's
wash my hands
finally
of this
over.
show.
We survived.
Finally over. It feels it's been a million years because
I mean,
this
that-
one was one of the delayed ones, right?
Yeah, because of the COVID delay. Like, this
Yeah.
is a show that we should have like been done with like
Yeah, I mean,
3
that
months
did-
ago, but
That did start last season, didn't it?
I thought it was spring, I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it's-
aired like 2 or 3 episodes or something.
I
Right.
think.
Yeah. They had a couple episodes and then resumed the season. So yeah. Which I guess that's also the case with the next show on our list.
Next couple of shows actually, but
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. Well, we'll get on. We'll get to Billionaire Detective Balance Unlimited first, which for most of us it did not survive the 3-episode test. But I know
Yeah.
Artemis, you did finish it up, and I'm kind of curious
I
to
did finish
hear
it.
what happened. I might have watched 3 or 4 episodes actually. I might have watched 4. I don't remember, but
Well, it basically turns into a murder mystery.
Okay.
Where the main character's father like is supposed to have died many years ago, right? But then it turns out that he comes back,
Oh no.
and he might have murdered his mom. But then it turns out that it's actually not him, and it was some guy wearing his face.
oh no.
And then it turns out that it was all for some kind of technology. I don't even, to be honest, I've forgotten, and it might be because I've forgotten on purpose.
I'm pretty sure you're describing the plot of Yakuza 3, I think.
And the kind of the main character, you know, the cop, like, who was scared to shoot a gun
Yeah,
because
right,
of his
yeah.
traumatic past experiences,
Yeah.
finally manages to shoot a gun at the end, and there's a big speech, or several big speeches, about now he's finally a hero again.
Because
And
shot a gun.
literally like several characters. And
I mean, all right, I ain't gonna lie. That means that I will say that means there are 2 shows in this podcast in which the subtext of the plot of the characters' like quest for self-determination involve pulling the trigger of a gun. So.
Right. So he manages to pull the trigger of a gun to save the billionaire.
Oh boy!
By shooting like
the cop shoots somebody to save the billionaire.
He shoots like the fucking like wire or something, like of the bomb or whatever. So it doesn't.
Oh, he wasn't even shooting a person.
No,
he was
doesn't
shooting.
even shoot a person. He just manages.
Okay.
To pull
What
the
if we
trigger
shot
of
the
his gun.
billionaire?
And then there's this big. This is supposed to be this big cathartic.
And then
moment
ate
where it's
him.
Like there's several pieces of dialogue, both by other characters and internal dialogue that he basically says like, finally, you know, I have moved on. And I am now no longer just a cop. I am a hero. And
Wow, boy,
Yeah.
there is some
Jesus
subtext
fucking Christ.
to again, probably unintentional, but in 2020, boy, there is some subtext to a cop saying, "Now that I finally pulled the trigger of my gun, I'm a hero."
The timing is, which is not the show's fault necessarily, but the timing
No,
is just
but-
so deeply questionable that
Wait, Artemis, did they ever? Wait, I thought the billionaire detective could like do anything, right? How could they explain him not instantly solving a murder mystery with
because
his?
because Husk, the computer butler thing that he has going on, Husk will not answer questions about like his father and about like the technology, because the guy impersonating his father has basically taken it over or whatever. So
You hacked the system.
he hacked
Okay.
the system or something. I don't know, something like that. And yeah, he has to solve this on his own without using money until the last episode, where I guess he
Until
can
he
use it
gets
again,
money
and then he uses a lot of money, and his accomplice, what's her name, his family member is like his cousin, I think, is sitting in front of the screen at home and sending drones and shit.
Great.
Like,
Sounds great. So did it move away from being episodic then at that point, and it was more
yeah,
like
the last I think the last 3 or maybe 4 episodes were all one story arc. I think honestly the main reason I kept watching was for the side characters mostly, because I did actually like the cops, like the kind of deadbeat cops, his office mates.
Right.
oh, it like his like
in the
his like
division that like
Yeah, like
Right.
there's the chick who just likes to eat candy all the time, and there's like the guy who just watches porn on his computer, I guess. Like,
Okay.
they all continue to be pretty solid throughout the show when they had screen time.
right. But yeah, the main characters not so much.
No,
Look,
not really.
I'll say again, there is an art to a good bit character. Like a good bit character can contribute a lot to a story.
If the series had stayed much like episode 1, even if it had not progressed in any way in terms of character development, I would have been okay with it. I would have been okay with a series that was just joking around and showcasing like his colleagues getting into dumb shit by mistake and
yeah.
just cracking
Right.
jokes about
Why
the
can't
office-
anime
about
just let us
office
have
life.
fun?
I know, right?
I swear, man. I mean, I know I keep bringing it up, but it's just these shows keep making me think back to Double Decker. I don't know why Double Decker specifically, but just like maybe
Is that
because
like the gold standard of dumb cop comedies at this
maybe,
point?
I don't know.
I think it's more than that. It's not even just like the police like premise, but it's more like that was the last show I can think of that was just like that fully embraced being comical. Like you know, there
Right.
were, you know, like a Kaguya or something, there were the occasional moments of like character sincerity, right? Like there was genuine character development here and there, but for the most part it's just like, nah, these guys are idiots. Like these guys are fools, and they're
Yeah.
gonna get into dumb hijinks,
I
and
did.
that's
yeah,
okay.
There's that line from the like production, or the voice actor would always write at the top of his scripts, Kirill is an idiot, to try and remember like how to get into character.
Right.
It's like, no, this guy's just stupid.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's unfortunate to hear that. I mean, I'll be honest, I only watched one episode of that, so I didn't miss it for sure. But it does sound like a shame that
it was still a lot more bearable than Appare Ranman, to be honest with you.
Well,
so
it's
I,
not
I
hard,
don't even
but
want to
yikes.
complain that much.
yeah.
Right.
Well, I think it's a shame that it tried to reach further and it doesn't. It sounds like it couldn't quite.
Yeah. I think like
make the gap.
even if you enjoyed the first couple of episodes and were okay with it going more serious from then on out and whatnot, it was at very best completely average. So I don't think if you guys or anyone listening to this does not watch it, you didn't miss anything.
Ringing endorsement.
So fine skipping it. Like tonally, I feel like we said this before, but tonally, I feel like I got everything that I needed out of that show. Like is being filled by a Great Pretender.
Yeah.
Right. We talked about them before. They kind of have similar energy to them, but Great Pretender is just better. So, yeah. Perhaps the show benefited a bit from the fact that there was just literally not many shows even being made last season. So, but it doesn't sound like there's any reason to go back to it.
No, I wouldn't.
So, all right. So let's talk about the other show G was alluding to that involves tying your yourself to can you or can you not fire a gun, I suppose.
Yeah, speaking of the other show in which the basic plot is can I pull the trigger or not.
There's a lot of big guns in this one.
Yeah, no guns life.
We haven't been talking about it regularly because from according to you guys, there's not a whole lot to say from week to week. But now that it's wrapped up, what were your guys' thoughts on the second season?
I mean,
totally adequate.
Yeah, the thing, maybe the most damning thing you could say about No Guns Life is what you saw in maybe the first couple episodes is exactly what No Guns Life sought out to be, and it never really got more ambitious than that. And maybe to some degree, that's because of the resources and manpower available to it. I brought this up with Eero, and again, this is not nearly as bad of an example, but in some ways I feel like No Guns Life ended up being, in some ways, this year's Copcraft of a show that clearly had its heart in the right place. It clearly wanted to do these big spectacles, but it just didn't have enough in the tank, so to speak.
Are we talking strictly from a technical point of view? At
technical,
this point,
I'd say, just anytime it wanted to get big, it just couldn't. It just didn't have it. It just didn't have it in it.
Right.
And because of that kind of means that, for better or worse, that means No Guns Life was left trying to carry itself on the back of its character and writing, which, this is not going to be one of the cyberpunk greats. This is not a Ghost in the Shell. This is not even a Bubblegum Crisis. It's, it's.
I mean, I wouldn't even. Not that it's not cyberpunk, but it's working at such a broad level that the narrative is barely worth talking about to me.
Yeah, so here's the thing. I will say that, Inui Juzo is a great character. I will stand by that. I think the main character, Juzo, and that's not just even on the back of his fantastic character design. I think he's a cool, fun character. He's not the deepest of the world, but for the purpose of the story and the world he exists in, I think he works.
Sure.
It's just that the world as a whole, maybe it's just the world as a whole can't handle Juzo. It just.
I mean, isn't he just hard-boiled detective?
Yeah, I mean, he's a hard-boiled detective with a gun for a head, and that's fine. Again, sometimes that's all you need.
I mean, that's a good sentence,
right? But that kind of feel like that's all No Guns Life really is.
Right, I mean, that's the thing, right? None of the other characters are, solid enough to, support that. If this were, a Trigun situation of, you got Vash the Stampede, but then you got, the Gung-Ho Guns and the two insurance ladies and, all these, wacky characters, it's that works, even if the story itself is whatever, but, No Guns Life is one of those shows, but what if it only had one good character carrying that all on his back? And, I think to some degree that part of it works. I will say, I think it speaks to the baseline level of its storytelling that, hey, at the end of the day, No Guns Life managed to get me to kind of care about a sentient gun's plight for self-determination
Sure.
in this dystopic world where the very concept of one's own agency isn't a guaranteed right. Like, it is definitely not a subtle metaphor, right? But there is a lot to like about No Gun's Life's usage of gun imagery to represent the capability of, like, people have to take power and agency into their own hands, right? Like, you know, I mean, literally the core of the message in the last episode is you have to pull your own trigger. You have to be the agent of your own will. Like, you know, maybe less what Billionaire Detective did of pulling the trigger makes you a hero, but more if you hold this gun in your hands, you have to pull the trigger. You have to be the one who takes responsibility for where you aim it and who you fire it at. And, you know, honestly, there are parts of that
It's
where
like,
I'm like,
fine. It's a little on the nose considering
It is on the nose,
a living
right.
gun.
he is a living gun, so yes, it's a bit on the nose. They have a whole episode where they go into his mind, and turns out that, like, the physical embodiment of, like, his block against, like, him willing to pull his own trigger is represented literally like Excalibur. It's a gun embedded in a slab of stone.
So, yeah, like, my thing is, when you guys describe it, and I do remember watching the first episode, you know, it seemed fine. Like, I could see enjoying that for a couple episodes, or maybe even a full season. But this is now season 2, like, 20-something
Right.
episodes of
Yeah.
this, right? Like,
Yeah.
is it making enough progress to be worth that many episodes
No.
at that point, or is it just the same thing over
I
and
would,
over?
I,
again?
I would
probably
say
not.
no.
No, it literally ends with the classic, and so the adventure continues.
I would say this
ending,
is a
so-
show where the, like, plot of last week's episode I had almost completely forgotten every week by the time the next
Like,
episode rolled around.
Like, you're not really at a different place than you were at episode
Not
1,
really.
is that fair to say?
No, like, there is plot development, there is character development, but it is so glacial. Like, in many ways, it really does remind me, for better or worse, of, like, this kind of show or OVA from the 90s, where, like, you know, it's episodic for, like, a whole season, and then maybe the last 2 episodes push the
Right.
plot forward a little bit.
Could they have done the whole thing, like, well in just one season, do you think? Or did it...
It's like an ongoing manga still, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, there's enough going on, I guess, that I don't think you could cut things out. It's just, I'm not exactly sure how one would, like, fix the No Guns Life anime. I mean, I had a good time when I was reading the manga, so maybe it's just, like, the pacing of the manga worked better for this sort of thing, but, you know, it's just, you know, a lot of aspects.
Yeah. I wouldn't call it bad. Just it was just something I watched every week because there was nothing else to watch.
And, you know, I will say at the end of the day, like, the show had a hell of an art direction.
Dude
like,
did fight the other gunhead guy, and other gunhead guy's arms turned into giant desert eagles.
and Juzo's hand turned one of his arms into a giant, bigger gun arm, where each
every
of
finger was another bigger
was
gun.
another gun, and his knuckles were the hammers of each gun. And so when he punched a dude, all the hammers on his fucking knuckles cocked and fired. And man, there's just some shit in that anime that's really fucking cool in that sort of, like, dumb anime way of, like, man,
That was alright.
this is not the deepest plot. I don't really care about these characters, but man, does anime have a knack for visual spectacle.
I'm now just trying to imagine this show as a live action.
Oh man.
And we'll always have that ED,
Yes,
the ending song.
the
Christ.
promised ED, yes, with the twerking
Which
and the
was-
street fight and
The Tekken graphics.
yes, the Tekken 3 intro graphics.
All right. Well, I mean, it. Like I said, it sounds like I don't know how you would endure watching it that long for 2 full seasons of basically the same thing. But
Yeah, I mean,
it's, yeah.
a back of the
Maybe
box
in a-
quote for this would just be, Inui Juzo deserves to be in a better show.
Yeah, maybe. But, all right. I mean, the manga continues, right? Maybe you'll get a season 3?
Oh boy.
Maybe.
did anybody actually watch the anime? I mean,
I don't know. Honestly, I haven't been paying that close attention to how it's done. So
I haven't had my finger on that in a while, but who knows? All right.
Yep.
Well, let's move on to our bright spot of the season.
the one good show that came out in summer 2020.
Let's talk about DECA-DENCE.
Kabu-Dence.
Kabu-Dence. We finally wrapped that up. The ending was pretty solid.
Yeah, I would say so.
I
It was
would say.
alright.
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
some reservations, but okay.
Yeah.
I do as well, but maybe we can get into that a little later.
I do as well. I think
Okay.
that was... I feel like that was all of us kind of projecting onto the show, though, if that makes sense.
All right.
Collectively,
Do you want to start us there, Ira?
I don't know. I was
before
gonna say,
get
do we
into
want to do the bright spots first? I mean, I feel
Sure.
like
Okay, yeah. Let's talk about the good stuff first.
yeah, like, look, it's as far as final episodes go, like I think it was solid, right? Like it very much followed what one might call like the trigger plan for how you formulate finales,
Like a big
right?
drill, play the opening,
Yeah.
shoot the
Right,
bad
play the
guy.
OP,
Yeah.
everybody teams up, all the side characters you've seen up till now show up at the last minute to help help the heroes in their moment of need. It's fun. It's big, it's bombastic. I think like once they'd made it clear that the finale was not going to be them taking down the system, but instead fighting this big kaiju,
Uh-huh.
I think they executed well on that part. I think that until the ending, until the very last few minutes, I think that they did a really good job of like making good on like Kabu's sacrifice, right? Like I really enjoyed that, like, because I was even thinking to myself, oh, like Kabu hasn't released his limiter yet, right? Like the limiter that makes that
Makes it
what is
truly
like-
your body.
right, that makes it your real body or whatever, right? Like and so I really like that, right? Like at the very end, even did the Simone about to do the Giga Drill Breaker for the first time. You get the montage of Kamina. Like, it does the same thing with Natsume, right? Like when Kabu's seeing all these moments with his MMO NPC waifu flashing before his eyes, and then he releases his limiter and shoots the big drill, and it's all fun. It's all well done for what it is.
At some point early on, I had described this as like anime comfort food, where it's like, and also that I feel like the director and the writer knows all the crowd pleasers.
Yeah.
They know how to do all the crowd pleasing moves that
These are the Mob
you
Psycho
want to see.
people, so
Right.
Yeah.
And it's fun, right? Like it's all enjoyable and well executed.
Yeah, I think
but-
I didn't necessarily agree with all of its narrative choices, but everything it did do, it executed very proficiently.
yeah. I mean, I think if we want to now get into maybe some of our issues with DECA-DENCE, it's that everything it actually did set out to do, it did well. I think it's just we wished it had maybe done something different.
Right. I was summing it up to myself as maybe they played it too safe.
Yeah,
Even with some of the wild creative choices that they made, like with the art style and stuff like that, the actual outcome still felt very safe.
I mean,
maybe Ira, I don't know if that's what you were getting to eventually there.
Yeah, I mean, I agree on that, but I also just feel like the show was always kind of playing it safe, and we just projected on it as it's really going for like
I don't know. I don't know if I can agree that it was obvious that it was playing it safe from the very beginning.
I wouldn't necessarily agree though. I wouldn't necessarily say it was obvious. I don't know. I don't want to ascribe
Maybe
intent.
we were all just waiting for something more that never quite eventuated.
Right.
I mean, we might as well get into this, spoiler warning if you haven't watched this. I mean, but maybe you
talking
should
about the
because
fucking
we're
ending,
we're talking about the last episodes of all these shows. But I mean, let's just get into it. They reform the system. They don't break it.
Right.
Like they quote unquote fix it. And as I was telling Eero, for better or worse, this very much reflects that sort of like Obama era like naivety about like neoliberalism that like oh, the system isn't bad, it can be fixed. We just have to appeal to, like, the intrinsic, like, moral good that lies in everybody, right? That, like...
Right.
That, like, oh, capitalism isn't the problem. It's just that, you know, there are some bad, greedy people. But if we appeal to their sense of decency and honor, like, they'll recognize that the things they've done so far are bad, and that we can all get along if we just, you know, see each other as people. And it very much speaks to that kind of, like, 2008 era of, like...
naive optimism.
Yeah, I mean, as one might say, hope. But again, like, maybe, you know, we've talked about this in the past, right, about how, you know, let's be honest, Japanese fiction, for the most part, not particularly subversive, right? Like, even...
I would say that their standard for what counts as, like, critical or, you know, I guess if you want to say political or something, is probably different than ours in the West.
I mean,
yes.
You know, they're a nation that intrinsically, for better or worse, kind of likes to softball this shit most of the time, right?
I think we said last time, if Persona 5 was considered mildly controversial, as politically speaking, then, you know, it's a different bar.
Yeah,
but, yes.
Right. Like, and so, I think that's the thing, right? We as Western viewers living in the hellscape that is 2020... I think maybe some of us really wanted to see Kabu and his band of robot misfits just rip that system to shreds, you know, just completely tear it down, you know, fucking shoot a harpoon gun at that ship in space and just drag it into the Earth. Like, and we didn't get that, right? Like, and I'm not saying that the show absolves capitalism, right? Like, let's be, you know, the final kaiju is still the product of capitalism, right? Like... that final kaiju, you know, the Gadol was what was like a genetic experiment, right? It was made by the system.
Right.
It got out of control because of the system. Like, you know, if one wants to be charitable, you can almost ascribe that to be like some kind of weird metaphor for like climate change, right? Like, you know,
Sure.
This is the hubris of capitalism and its unchecked like exploitation of the planet, blah blah blah. But yeah, them just fighting a big kaiju in the end instead of... it's... I don't want to say it's lazy. I definitely don't want to say it's lazy. Because I think
it was conventional, I think.
Yeah,
right.
It recognizes that fighting capitalism, destroying these oppressive systems, is much more difficult than just punching a big monster in the face. In fiction, anyways. Like... to dismantle capitalism, to dismantle this system that has oppressed mankind, and you know what, oppressed the gears as well, or you know the androids, the cyborgs, because like you know they also they toil in the ship mines, they live to get oxygen, right, which they need to live. Like imagine, I mean that's literally like imagine if you had to play EVE Online to receive oxygen. Like that's kind of.
Right.
What kind of dystopian system it is. So everybody's being oppressed under it, and it's a show that, for better or worse, maybe does recognize that that's a much harder thing to fight, and it's just easier if a big monster shows up and we gotta hit it real hard.
Right. I think, so, I mean, even if you're just looking at it as, and I don't want to put the thematic considerations aside because I think that's very important, but if you're looking at just how the plot plays out, it's such a soft landing. Like,
we made it. We turned it into Minecraft,
especially
right.
I want to say
even the epilogue, like the after credits. Scene.
Like turning. Like if you think about what has actually changed by the end of the episode, they've basically just changed the genre of the game.
Yeah,
right?
It doesn't actually feel that dramatic of a change.
Everything else, including a lot of the problems, are still there.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, like all that's changed really is that one of the good ones got promoted to CEO. Like, you know, when Minato is the new like admin, right? It's like
right.
It's not that they broke the system. It's not even that they necessarily even reformed the system. It's just that we have a good boss now.
Right, and we're not.
And now you can go farming and play sports.
Right, we're not actively. While we're not actively killing humans, we are still technically enslaving them for
right. And I do just want to point out real quick, Eero can vouch for this, that a few episodes back I called this. I was speculating. I was like, how are they going to reform if they have to change the system, whether they destroy it and build a new one or reform it or whatever? How are they going to sell this to the Gears? And I came to the realization, oh, wait, of course. What is the most popular genre of game after killing things? Building things. They were going to turn this into Minecraft. Like, gamers love to craft shit. They love to mine shit and then make shit out of it. And that is the perfect way to frame the rebuilding of your new society is, oh, DECA-DENCE 2.0, now with base building.
Right,
Now it's Final Fantasy 14. You can buy real estate.
Right. But the fact that they still have to have that that video game veneer over it, and not just everybody working together to, survive.
And presumably still no one knows about it except Natsume, right?
I mean, they had both logged in Gears and Android-looking Gears.
Yeah, they did have the androids
both
around.
So
I think that so here's the other thing, right? How much of this is because this show is 12 episodes? Like, I'm not saying DECA-DENCE would have been better with 26. I think 26 maybe would have been too much for how self-contained the story is. But how much would DECA-DENCE have benefited from, say, 2 more episodes? Because it does feel like that ending is in service of, oh fuck, we have 6 minutes left. We have to wrap this up. Like, we don't have time to explain how we reformed the system. We don't have time to explain, did we tell the humans...
We kind of we jump a few years later and everything's fine now.
We don't even have time to explain if the rest of the world is still fucked or if they're gonna, work to fix that yet. Like...
Right.
Yeah, I mean, part of that could be that, it's easy to acknowledge a problem and it's a lot harder to present a solution. And just having a positive outlook on it is the only way they can really go with it. I mean, I think if there is one, I guess, good message that comes out of it is when Kabu is in the DECA-DENCE and that other robot thing's telling him you have no choice. It's, the message of, even if it seems impossible or whatever, it's still worth standing up and fighting. Like, that's, I think, a real message you could take away from it. But they give that such a soft landing later that kind of says, oh, well, it's all going to work out. And it's like, well, not necessarily.
Yeah,
but
I mean...
it's still worth, I guess, doing what you can and fighting back. But but they didn't really stick with that message per se by making everything work out in the end. But yeah, I think overall, it was just... I do think it was fair to Iroh's point to at least have some higher expectations for the show, because the creators themselves have brought out...
I mean, I think that's why I said... I think this is why I said I do believe this show actually did make promises of a more, grand ambition than it necessarily, bore out
having
in
a
hindsight.
higher thematic purpose than just,
we joke about it, but Kabu being radicalized by his MMO waifu is legitimately one of the strongest moments of this whole year. Like, if we want to talk about 5-minute segments in anime, I can't think of any stronger than that episode of DECA-DENCE. Like, the combination of, Natsume's self-loathing because of her perceived, value to society being decided by her worth, and that leading to Kabu realizing how intrinsically broken this system is. And, again, the very cool moment where all goes red and he swears to destroy the system, and you can practically hear the Soviet anthem playing in the background as a superimposed picture of Karl Marx shows up. It's a really strong moment. I really do think that moment alone did make the promise that this show was going to be about tearing down capitalism. And
that and I mean the creator's own direct comments that we've read, but and maybe we did project that a little further than was intended, but there was reason for us to be thinking in that direction, right?
I guess. So when was the last time any anime actually went that hard on anything?
Last period.
Legend of the Galactic Heroes.
Oh, great, 30 fucking years ago.
Nope. Last period.
Last period's a comedy. Come on.
They went in hard though on
I don't know. Fuck.
and
Yamato,
very-
Yamato
very
2199.
specific.
Like, yeah, I am legitimately trying to think. When was the last anime that like actually went pretty hard on its political stance?
Fucking
man?
doesn't. It's the thing, right? I don't know.
I know you're. I know. Look, Iro. I'm
Yeah.
not saying. Look.
I
I want to
know,
make it clear.
I-
I'm not here being like, oh, it pulled its punches. What a surprise! I'm not saying
Yeah.
that. I do say that. Look, in many ways, that was the expected turn. I mean, look, Iro,
Right.
you heard me going through these motions in the episodes leading up to the finale of me going like, oh, this episode, this show's gonna
Lowball
is gonna lowball it. Yeah, but like, I think, I don't know. I'm not gonna say impressive because it tried, but I think we had. To a certain extent, I think some of us wanted to believe because
Yeah.
it was capable of
I
even
did too.
implanting. How many shows are even capable? How many anime are even capable of implanting the thought in our heads that, oh, this could be political, and this could be political in a really good, interesting way.
Right.
Like that's so rare in anime that I don't know. Just even just the promise of it is so.
Yeah.
Just.
There are probably a couple other things I could nitpick, like, I did kind of wish Natsume had more of an active role in the story. And not just,
Turned out Kaburagi was the
you
actual
guys joke,
protagonist. Right.
yeah, you guys joke about her being Kabu's 2D waifu, but
kind of
3D,
is.
whatever, game waifu, but her main
she's a
purpose of the
catalyst
story
for
is
his
basically
growth.
his.
Yeah,
It's basically
a
like
little
his
unfortunate.
muse for the story, right?
Like-
And I felt like we were being set up for her to be like the real main character,
Right. And she never really
And-
gets that. I mean, here's the thing, right? If you want to take the very charitable take, it's that, well, I mean, Kabu would have never have done any of those things if not for Natsume, right? I mean,
Right.
right? Like, in the same way that, like, again, maybe it's just because of the parallels, right? Simone the Digger does not break through the ceiling without Kamina, right? Like Simone needed the catalyst, a character to even make that possibility like aware to him in the same way that Kabu had clearly like given up on all hope of resistance, right? Like he needed a character to show him that was a plausible, capable
Right.
thing that
Make
he could
him not
even
just a grumpy old man for the
right,
rest of his
basically,
days.
right, and like you kind of get hints, bits and pieces of like, oh, that's what Natsume does, right? Like she beats herself up because she feels like she's not doing enough, but she's actually doing the most because she is inspiring other people to get involved, to get invested again. But
Right.
I would agree, like it is kind of a weak role, especially because like
It's I wouldn't even say weak. It's just she's clearly the supporting
yeah,
role,
Right.
whereas Kabu is the hero of the story, which I felt like we were not getting sold on that in the beginning. I mean, I guess you could look at it as it kind of flips the script on the mentor dying halfway, so that the young character can save the world in the second half or something. But yeah.
And I mean, it's like it's one of those things. It's a weird thing because I mean, I like Kabu, like I really do. He's a fun character. Really, it's around the shit minds like segment of that show where I was like, oh man, this guy's great. Like, fuck yeah, like.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard to tell like how much of that is like because they only had 12 episodes. Like this is all they could do. I don't know what the version of DECA-DENCE looks like with 24, but
I'm not convinced they would have changed their minds though, like
Right.
on any major plot point.
Just,
be honest.
just like
Yeah.
flush out details more, I guess.
Yeah, which wouldn't necessarily have been a bad thing either. But I don't necessarily think more time equals different outcome.
true.
Right.
I just think that maybe more time would have led to more nuance,
Yeah.
more like
Depth.
more context, more depth, like.
Yeah.
But I mean, hey, I'm definitely looking forward to whatever Studio Nut does next. So. And I look forward to saying the word Studio Nut many more times. in the
As
future.
they said, it is fully yabai or whatever, right? Fully sick.
Fully sick. Yabai, aka fully sick.
Yeah. And again, just bringing it full circle, the show was good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, it was the weekly good show, right?
Yeah, and it was it's probably just by default the best show we watched this season, right?
Yeah,
So,
I would.
Yeah.
Even if it didn't feel like it was living up quite to its ambition, what it actually ended up trying to accomplish, it accomplished well.
Yeah.
And I think we're just slightly disappointed because it feels like this had the ingredients to be like an all-time great type of show, and it did not rise to that height per se by the end of it. Like, I don't know how much I'm going to remember about Decadence 10 years from now,
Sure.
like
Yeah.
we might say, hey, you guys remember Decadence, or something like that. But,
And I will say, if I'm still alive in 10 years, I'll probably just talk about the shit mines.
if we still have internet and can communicate in 10 years,
That will continue to be the probably for better or worse, the legacy of Decadence for me will be the shit mines are a metaphor for capitalism.
yeah.
Christ.
I mean, and the probably like the crazy art style.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, in all
That's probably
seriousness,
that's
like,
probably the thing that'll stand out in my
Yeah.
brain the most. But 10 years from now. But it. Other than that, it's just a good show.
I mean, well, let's be honest, man. Depending on how the rest of this year turns out, Decadence might still end up being.
I'm sure it'll be in our.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be in our top 10.
just due to the lack of competition in some regards.
Yikes.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be in our top 10, just due to lack of competition. I don't even know if I could come up with a top 5 at this point. Hopefully, well, get
Doro
something.
Hidoro, Azoken, it invaded. What else do we need?
Yeah. All right. So I think that's pretty much it. I know we mentioned Artemis. You also finished Fruit Basket season 2, but that's coming back, right?
Yeah, it's coming back for a final season next year, I believe. So,
Right.
so
Will you
it
be
is
watching
not-
that? Are you going to watch that?
Maybe, probably.
I mean,
all
really,
right.
what I was trying to get here is how did you feel good enough about Fruits Basket season 2 to care about season 3? But
I cared enough to keep watching it this season because it was good comparatively, like in terms of what else was there. I guess it would depend when it came out, like what other anime are airing at the same time, honestly.
fair enough.
So the one thing I want to try to wrap my brain around, if I remember, did the original Fruit Baskets anime that didn't finish the whole story?
It didn't. It only
Right.
Animated. It was originally, I think, 26 episodes when
Right.
it came out. Just all one season, I think, and it was like, I guess I haven't read the manga, so I don't know how many kind of main story arcs there are. But it finishes. It does not finish on a cliffhanger, but it does not conclude anything in particular. It's just
Right.
kind of,
I
and they're all
So-
happily ever
so
after
is
for
this-
now kind of thing.
Is this new anime past where the old one was at this point?
Yeah, it's quite a ways past. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting.
And
But
I know, I don't know what happens at the end exactly, but I knew the big reveal. I knew what that was going to be because it's hard to remain spoiler free when you're talking about a manga
Right.
that started in the late 90s.
right, for 20 years, right?
So
That's interesting.
And so that big reveal did not happen in the original anime series. The original never got that far. So
Right.
part of the reason I was watching was to see the big reveal and how it was handled exactly.
Right.
Which was fine. It was fine. Like if I had to sum up Fruits Basket, like this anime series, I would say fine.
They're just adapting the material and getting the job done,
I guess,
basically.
like, again, I haven't read the manga, so I can't even say, oh, they're adapting it well, or that they missed out this, or I'm glad they put this in, or whatever, because I just have no idea. Like,
I totally forget where I stopped reading Fruits Basket. Like,
Yeah, I forgot, G, you have your secret Fruits Basket history.
Yeah. Like
from-
I watched the original anime and then read the manga afterward, up till like around where it was currently at the time, and
Right.
yeah.
it's a haze, dude. It's a total haze. Like that was like
It's a long
That
time
was like
ago.
freshman year of high school or some shit.
I think I remember the anime the first anime so well because it was probably one of the first kind of romantic drama kind of shoujo series I watched.
Same for me. That was definitely one of the first shoujo like. Fruits Basket and Ouran High School occupy like a very specific, like deeply lodged like nodule in my brain of like.
This is how you learned about shoujo,
right? Like those were the shoujo shows. Like
Right.
those are the ones that
it was like I watched some like harem shows before that, like Tenchi and whatnot. Like,
yes,
but this
Tenchi's
was the
probably
first
there.
kind of. I think it was the first sort of more serious, more character-driven shows.
Yeah,
shoujo shows that I
definitely,
watched.
definitely.
Yeah, it's just interesting because like, how often do you get a situation like that where they come back 20 years later to finish the anime or whatever?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, Fruits Basket was a big deal at the time, so
It was, yeah. I mean, I don't know.
the name still has some cachet even now. So
It's probably still pretty popular.
yeah. And we talked about last episode all the other shows from the mid 2000s coming back next season too. But,
Right.
Yeah. I might watch. I
Interesting.
might watch season 3, but I wouldn't. I don't know. It's all right. Like I don't know. I don't know.
A lot of shows this season.
It's all right.
I mean, you made it through season 1 and 2. You're committed now, right?
I guess so. I guess I would watch it just so I can say I finally finished it and I
Right,
now
yeah.
know how it ends. Finally,
Right.
Because that's the one spoiler I managed to finish. Like, do they break the curse and then what? Like after that, like is there going to be an epilogue? Are they actually going to get the happily ever after? Are there any major sacrifices along the way? All of that I've managed to basically avoid so far, in terms of knowing
Right.
what goes down. So if I watch season 3, it would be just so I can say, well, that's done, and I don't have to ever think about it again. Cool.
I have finished shows for far worse reasons,
Uh-huh.
for far dumber reasons, far dumber motivations. So
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys continue to watch all the Gundam Build shows, right? So
we sure do, and we sure will.
Yeah.
all right. Well, I think that ties a bow on last season. We're on to fall 2020. Is there anything, we did the full podcast
did.
last time, but just refresher, any shows any of you are looking forward to as we're going in?
I think the two that I thought, well, I'll at least check these out are, the gymnastics one that is very desperately trying to be
Taiso Samurai.
Yuri on Ice. And look, man, I really like Sung Ho Park, so I'm definitely going to at least check out Jujutsu Kaisen.
Yeah.
I saw Crunchyroll tweet some art from that, and it had a fighting panda bear. So
Yeah,
it's a
like really channeling some of that Tekken energy. In
good
that.
start on that.
But so hey, I'll check that one out too, just because Sung Ho Park deserves the world. So,
Yeah.
If you say so.
Artemis, you were actually on. Did you have anything you were looking forward to?
Also the Taiso Zamadai? I don't know. It has a Z here, so I don't know.
oh, does it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I saw because it didn't before on some of the
Yeah.
sites, and now it does. Yeah.
So that, for sure, I'll be watching. I guess I'll be watching the 3rd season of Osomatsu-san.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll watch it.
Yeah.
I guess I'm having trouble picking shows that I'm actually looking forward to. There's a bunch of things I'll check
Yeah.
out, but
Ikebukuro Westgate Park, which I still don't know exactly what kind of show it's going to be, and I'll watch it for curiosity's sake to find out, I guess.
I mean, Jel, you and I are probably gonna have to watch that rap show, right?
oh,
I mean,
we'll definitely give that an episode
Yeah.
just to talk about it. But I am not anticipating enjoying that.
I
at
mean, if we
all.
could just watch that to have an excuse to go on like a 20-minute tangent in the podcast about hip hop, that's not the worst
Yes.
thing in the world.
Yeah, that might be what the one benefit out of that one. But yeah, I am not expecting that to be good at all. So. Yeah, Ira, did you have any to throw on there?
Not on top of what has already been said. Aquagaze is probably going to drag us through Adachi and Shimamura. But
That could be good. I'm not getting my expectations too
I'll
high yet.
give
but
the one episode to all of the trashy looking fantasy action shows, and in the impossible hope that one is
A Bahamut.
yeah, basically.
yeah, well, at least with this season, which is being different from last season, there's actually just a higher quantity of shows and a better chance of us finding something that is going to surprise us. Whereas for the summer season, it was just like there just wasn't
none of
any
y'all
shows being
excited
made.
for the new Jun Maeda key PA work show?
We did this bit last podcast
Yeah.
already.
Everybody go back and listen to the last episode one more time before new shows start next week.
Want to get our Jun Maeda discourse?
Yeah, and for me, I got, like I said, I don't really have anything I'm looking forward to. There's a lot of things I'm going to check out, but maybe Grand Blues, like I said. But other than that, so all right, I think that'll do it for this episode. Then, so let's do our housekeeping. You can check us out at theglorioblog.com, where we currently have ongoing Kamen Rider coverage, so you can see how much Zig hates that show.
Hey, I hate that show too.
And have you been on the posts?
I'm not, but holy moly, that show sucks.
You're gonna second that feeling
Boy,
from
howdy.
Zig on that one. And of course, we're gonna have our first looks coming up for the new season, probably prior to the next podcast, so keep an eye out for those. You can follow us on Twitter at the GLORIO blog. You can check out the podcast and subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Podbean, and now Amazon Music, which I don't know how that's different from some of the other things. I have to find the link too. They make it very difficult to find the link, but I'll put that in the post for the half a dozen people that actually use Amazon Music. And of course, you can like, comment, subscribe on YouTube, where we will also post the podcast. And that's going to do it. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, and we'll catch everybody next time.
"またない彼氏ってられない街に繰り